Ooby-doo, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast, and today we're going to have a relook at the Nikon Zoom NIKKOR 35 to 70 millimeter constant aperture f3.5, and today it was on the Z6. Today is Sunday, the last Sunday of October 2023, and I get up early because my cat gets me up early, so I fed him, and it was still dark out. I left my house around 5:45 and I went to a nearby town because I wanted to take some night pictures of neon signs. And I could have took a very fast normal lens, like a 50 millimeter f1.2, a 50 millimeter f1.4, a 35 millimeter f2 or something of that ilk. But instead I took this 35 millimeter 35 to 70 millimeter zoom. I want to see how it would react. The neon lights are bright, and if you expose for neon lights, then everything else comes dark. But if you expose for the dark, then the neon lights get washed out. Now this camera has a very wide dynamic range, and you can go into a special DR mode, and it gives you a couple choices of how to pick. But I think I put a DR minimum or something like that in this camera. And I use ISO 800 and then 1250. And I was using a fast shutter speed, like at 1/160th of a second and 1/250th of a second. And I think the results came out pretty good, but you're going to look at them and you could see. Now, what did I find out? This lens is slightly soft wide open, but it's very usable softness. And this is one of those high definition, low resolution lenses when it's wide open. If you stop it down, it gets even sharper and better up until f5.6 or f8, and it gets as good as it's going to get. So, but you know, if you have a lens, can you use it wide open? And why did it give you this aperture if it's not usable? All right, we'll give you a 3.5, and then 5.6 will be great. You know, rather than make it at 5.6, and that might be marginal. But it does take really good pictures. It's a little hard to focus at night, but I did a pretty good job. Of course, the depth of field is very shallow, especially at 70 millimeters, and at 35 millimeters is still pretty shallow unless it's further away. The further away an object is, the more depth of field you get anyway. So there's no depth of field scale on this lens at all. And I think it did a really good job. There's a couple of old school neon signs around, and I drove around when it was dark and it was cloudy, so even when the sun was coming up, the overcast still kept it dark, and I think it worked out pretty good. Now, this is a very short video because I only took a few pictures, and rather than dumping, you know, dozens of pictures on you, maybe there is only a dozen, and then we'll just look at them and you could decide whether this is a good lens. Now, since this is an old F-type lens, an AIS lens, I used the FTZ adapter, the original one that has a tripod mount, because I think that's very useful if you want to put a longer lens on it. You know, you don't use the camera body and all the leverage that may stress it may put on the camera body. So I like the old one that has a tripod socket. And yeah, you know, there's the D lenses. I have one D lens, and D lenses are cool when I put on the FTZ adapter. Even though D lenses have autofocus, there's no coupling between the Z and the D type lenses. But D stands for distance, and there's some electronic contacts, and you could use the full body control. If I put it in A or S, then I could either adjust the shutter speed and the camera adjust the aperture, or I could adjust the aperture and the camera adjust the shutter speed. That's on the D lens, which is pretty cool. And you also get a focus confirmation square, where you can move the square around the center somewhere. And then as you focus the lens, when that portion of the field of view is in focus, it blinks green. It turns from red to green. And that's a great thing about D lenses. Of course, they cost a little bit more. And there's some D lenses, they still have full aperture control where you could go manual if you want to. And you can stick it on some other mirrorless camera with a dumb adapter, which is pretty cool. But that's another issue that we'll get into another day. Excellent build quality, excellent optics, very usable, wide open f3.5 throughout the range. Now this is a full frame camera, and there's one picture, and you'll see this, where in the lower left-hand corner there was a lot of coma and flare. So if you were to put this on a crop sensor, you wouldn't see that section because the crop sensor is smaller and than a full frame. So the corners would be out. Now, was there vignetting or vignetting? I don't know. I couldn't tell. I mean, it was pretty dark, and so I just left it like that. And if there's a bright light in the corner, even if it's vignetting, it would still, because of contrast, seem bright. So I wasn't shooting for that. But at any rate, without further doggy-do, let's jump right into the pictures and check them out, shall we? This is an old school neon sign, some diner on the highway. I drove there especially. Look in the lower right-hand corner. You see those two lights? They have the extreme coma. Now we're going to see a full, a 1:1 crop of this corner, and let's check it out right now. Okay, that's pretty bad off-axis coma. This is wide open of 3.5. Now this is a full frame camera, so that means on a crop sensor this wouldn't even be in the picture. So that would mean, would you get better quality? I don't know. I'll have to run this on a crop sensor camera and get back to you on that. So yay, there's a liquor store. Liquor stores have neon signs. I like neon. Corona's got some nice signs, that's for sure. It's a little soft, but I was sure I focused on the neon, but I think the neon is naturally fuzzy or something. I don't know what to say about that. Oh, the colors came out pretty good. Green, blue, orange, and these all look like real neon to me. I think they were, although they have the faux neon now. So I went down the street, and there's this gas station. I was stuck at the light, and had enough time to turn my camera on, focus, and get a picture. And I sharpened this picture to show you that it was high definition, but low resolution. There was a slightly fuzzy if you pixel peep, but it came out so good looking with moderate sharpening that it's a good lens. And here is a 1:1 crop of that area, and the stars look like stars, even though they were a little fuzzy in the original picture before sharpening. And I'm taking these pictures to maintain them to look like you're taking them at night and dark. I mean, if I use real HD, I would have, shown everything. And actually, after I processed this a little bit, it's way brighter than it would have looked like when I was there, because that guy walking out the door, I could barely see him. It was that dark, the way it was lit. And then I was able to process and bring out what was in the shadows. And here's a hardware store, and I wanted to maintain the effect that I was taking a picture at night, and it was lit up by that one street lamp and the light shining out of the store. That's what I wanted to do. Maybe I'll have to change some parameters and see if I get artsy craftsy with it. Miss Korea, best Korean fried chicken. Well, she's been there for a while. Although on the same strip in this town, a tattoo parlor had went out of business because the store says for rent and the mannequins he had in the window were gone. So I was sort of upset that I didn't get to photograph that. And here's a new store. It's only been in business for a month or so. Some sort of bridal gown place. Well, we'll see how long they last. They say follow your bliss, but sometimes it could turn into a nightmare, I think. But I'm not knocking it. People want to do that, let them do it, give it a go at it. Goldberg's Bagels. I finally was in this town, and there were no cars parked in front of this storefront. And in the full frame picture, in that black car in the lower right-hand corner, you can just barely read his license plate, although you can't now because it's all downsized and everything. And here's a 1:1 crop of that. Now, if you look at the bagel sign, the top of the bagel sign looks like a sharp or something, but the rest of it sort of looks fuzzy. And I don't know if that was the neon's doing that itself, or the way it was recording on the camera, or the shade that was pulled down partway just blocked some extra light. And that's the thing. If you expose for the highlights of neon signs, then it's going to look even darker. At the animal hospital. It's after hours animal hospital, but I've never seen it open. But it's been there for as long as I can imagine. And then the signs always lit up, so someone must be paying the bills. Wells Fargo. I like this expansive brick wall with the lights. And you could tell it's just at dawn. Dawn had just broken through the overcast, but it was still dark. That's why I took this picture. The Cobbs. This is another neon sign's been there for as long as I can remember. And I've taken pictures of this before, but I'm going to have to put this on my, standard photo routine to compare lenses with. I've never been in there, Nate, but it's there and I drive by.